We'll give this a few minutes because I know the notifications don't go out very quick. I know, I'm sorry. And I'm going to sit here and try to crochet. I'm doing a drunken granny stitch baby blanket. I can tell y'all now, Kim's daughter and her husband are expecting a little baby boy. So I'm doing a drunken granny square baby blanket, and my hair is giant today. Sorry. Give it a few minutes. I know a lot of you have seen the couple of videos I've put out, and then you all watched Sabrina's Odyssey stuff, and then Booma's live earlier today, and you're seeing a lot of stuff that isn't it funny how this stuff comes to light during times when families are trying to be terribly busy and focused on anything but like the mainstream news and stuff like that. Kind of get you when they get you when you're not looking. And for anybody that's new to this channel, hi, my name's Liz. I am I'm the one that always calls Sabrina a heifer. she's my bestie, and I have an epileptic Boston Terrier that we foster. She's Luna. She's over there. She's going to be making all the gross noises that you normally hear from Luna, the snoring, the snorting. She's so noisy. And if you've never met me before, Heidi, I'm a hillbilly, but I have my master's in psychology. I worked in corrections, adult and juvenile for a long, long time. I supervised murders for the state, supervised the sex offenders for the state. Have always worked in the aspect of mental health along with corrections, and I did like the cognitive behavioral therapy classes for the prison systems and stuff. I was IPO, institutional parole officer, for a lot of the local county jails. Just did hope. Luna, we ain't playing that game. Just because I'm busy don't mean you get a prowl. Go sit. You got in trouble this morning and you're still in trouble. Go Luna's chair. Go. She's like, screw you, I'm going to bed. As long as you go get still. Get still somewhere. Pick one. Go to bed. She got in trouble this morning, so she's in a education day. No, ma'am. So when you talk about energy projection, I just did that to this dog. So you saw how I went from amicable and sweet and kind to I'm focused on you and you're ticking me off and you had better listen to me. That was all energy projection, voice and energy projection. I didn't have to do anything else but that. Does she always listen? No. That's why we have to have school constantly. She's a good dog. She just wasn't taught any manners because she was basically put into a breeding program when she was little, and she was used just as a puppy mill female. And so she came to us because they had culled her because she was having seizures. The rescues didn't know what to do with her. They weren't willing to sink money into her. They were basically just going to put her down. And I knew, having worked with animals with seizures before, that her seizures were probably because she was very ill. We took a chance on her. It took us about 4 months to get her through the stomach issues. And once we got her through the stomach issues, her seizures have spread out to about 1 every 3 months. Which doesn't require medication, and we're trying to get them even farther spaced out, but because we're healthy now and she has the energy to get to trouble, we're working on behavior. So she's learning a lot right now, and I'm the mama, I'm the disciplinarian, I'm the structure person, and so I'm the person that does most of the teaching, as with most households. I guess that's how it falls. But anyway, that's all I've done my entire life is basically behavioral modification through the corrections programs in multiple facets. And I did a lot of therapy and counseling right before I had to retire due to my health. And I don't know, I've just witnessed a whole lot of stuff, and I fell out of love with my area of study, which was psychology, because as soon as I got deep enough in it to be finishing a master's, I could very readily see that the thing that I thought was created to help people understand some deficits and overcome them was actually already been manipulated to basically monitor and control the people. So I wasn't going to be able to help people as much as I was going to be able to monitor and control them for the higher ups. And I really fell out of love with my educational career sector immediately. It just kind of broke my heart. And when I went on to have jobs where I genuinely worked for the people that I helped, I would get in trouble with the people that built, because I wouldn't put them in 5 classes immediately, because I knew that they couldn't handle 5 classes, and that would make them basically, have deer in the headlights, and I can't do this, and give up on themselves. I would put them in one thing here. When they graduated from that, one thing here. But they didn't like that, because they could make more money if they billed for all 5 simultaneously, even if it meant that the person was going to fail. And when I combated that, they constantly just had to have talks with me, and try to force my hand at billing. But I was the person that had to bill, and I refused to bill for it. And a lot of the younger people I wouldn't send to the psychiatrist. I would do like 3 to 6 months of behavioral modification before we would go to the psychiatrist, because you really need to get a grasp on these younger kids, and you don't want to diagnose them too soon. And it used to be that you couldn't diagnose anyone with anything under the age of 18. That has since changed. But you wanted to really get to know them to see what parameters you're working within. Is it a neurological issue that is impulse control, executive function issue, or is it behavioral modification because of no structure at home, things that can be modified? And they didn't want me to work with that. They wanted me to immediately send them to the psychiatrist and put them on medications, even though I've read all the studies for a lot of the medications that are for generalized disorders they place people on, especially young people, and especially for depression and anxiety. There is no proof anywhere in any of those studies that the medications that they use to manipulate serotonin and other chemicals in your brain actually help with depression and anxiety. It is basically the psychological Hail Mary. And when you talk about that in meetings and symposiums and seminars, they get very aggressive. Wonder why? So I try to make y'all aware of what's going on. Oh, we got this in here. We've got, is that Janae? I can't see if it's Jane or Janae. Janae. I'm blind. Chelsea sent me feathers for dream catchers, and I'm working on a very particular dream catcher right now that's probably been one of the most in-depth ones I've ever had to do. And I think I'm going to use a lot of those feathers in that one. I think it will be beneficial to the person to have some real down home feathers in there. So I'm doing a lot of that right now. I told David that there was a lady on Booma's stream that was wanting to buy, probably a possum is what I said. I don't know if it's a possum or not. And he said, well, I still have some that you crocheted before Grinch Fest. And I said, okay. And he said, I can put them on. And I said, can you create an ad? He said, yeah, I can create an ad. I said, we'll do that. I said, because there's somebody probably want one. So there, I think you put 4 possums on the Etsy page. And if you know me, I craft to stay sane, because I had to retire so early due to my health. I have reflex sympathetic dystrophy, which was basically brought on by when I was a wilderness boot camp counselor. I had a boy throw an axe at me. That resulted in a lot of leg surgeries, a lot of knee surgeries, a lot of hip, gait, back issues, all causally related. If you know how you walk, it affects everything. And now I also have Graves' disease. So I've got a lot of issues that once my health took a hit, here they all presented. And I tried to work for, a number of years more. Even after the hospitalizations were really bad, I worked for about 2 or 3 more years until the doctors told me, you're going to have to stop because you're going to put yourself underground if you keep doing this. So I finally phased out, and it still took about 2 or 3 more years to get my health kind of at a balance. I was just in the hospital every little whip stitch. This disorder attacks my organs. And I finally have found somewhat of a balance, and I've not been in the hospital in almost 3 years, and I'm doing better. I do more natural stuff to maintain myself, because the more I seem to rely on doctors, the less likely I am to get healed, is what I have come to just in my opinion, what I have felt in my story. And so I do a lot of stretching and healing, a lot of downtime, I spend a lot of time just focused on my inward emotional and energetical feelings and how am I doing? Do I feel anything going wrong? As y'all know, on Christmas Day, I got up way too early before my legs really woke up. It takes about an hour, hour and a half for my legs to really get with the program when I get up. And I got up way too early because David had trapped this huge coyote and I wanted to take pictures of it. It was gorgeous. It was beautiful. It was huge. And he wanted to do kind of an education program with it to talk about how the coyotes are breeding in with domestic dogs and the problems that they're creating in rural areas. And I went out to take a picture of it. And instead of no, park it. Right. Park it. Park it. I've worked with livestock my whole life. I switch channels very easily. She knows she's in trouble today. She's not been following the rules. And so she's in a school. She's in a schoolroom all today. Today is a learning day for her about behavior. I'm not being mean to her. I'm not laying a hand on her, but she is learning when she displeases me. And I put an energetical push her way to let her know you're displeasing me. And when she tries to displease me more, I push back. Right. She won't put herself in her kennel. She knows she's displeasing me. And so we're learning about boundaries today. And when Mama says no, it means no, heck. So that's what she's learning today. But I've worked with livestock. That's how I paid for college. That's how I got through college until I got my associates and then my bachelor's, and finally got into some state and federal working stuff, which was not exactly what I thought it was going to be. It was a bunch of higher ups that were kiss butts and yes men that didn't have two brain cells between them all. Luna, am I going to have to put you in the kennel? Because I will. I don't believe you. Go Luna's chair. Nope, go Luna's chair. She fell. Go Luna's chair. I may have to put her in her kennel. Luna May. May have to put her. Go kennel. Pick one. Luna's chair or kennel? Where do you want to go? Luna's chair. I'm not letting you outside. Last time I let you outside, we had to go a quarter mile to pick you up. I ain't playing that game. Nope. You were just outside 20 minutes ago. I let you go potty before we started this, so I ain't playing that game. Luna's chair. Now! Get up there and sit down. Don't play me. I normally work with 1,200-pound animals that can kill you, so being gruff is part of it. Okay, let's see if she will calm down now. She is, as soon as she got healthy, she became very much a toddler that wanted to test all the rules. So we're having to be very firm with her. And our hope is if she doesn't stay with us, that we can find her a really good family that has some kids she can play with. But she needs to have manners. And any animal that I've ever had a hand in and then placed will leave me with manners. I don't care if they weigh 5 pounds or 5,000. They're going to have manners. So, but it's a good expression and it's a good display of energy work. So people that don't believe in energy work, I didn't move. That was all energy work. So energy work is real. And just a lot of people don't understand it because they've never been forced to basically understand how you talk without social construct. You know, how does nature speak? You know, because they don't talk like us. So, you know, when I'm out, when I was healthy and stuff and I go out deer hunting and stuff, we have bears and huge coyotes around here. And when you could put yourself out there, you're not the big person on the totem pole. And so even when I'm walking, like when I was walking when I was younger to a tree stand or a blind or to check a trap line or heck to go fishing, you carry yourself differently. You want to look imposing. You want to look big. You want to look assured of yourself and your status, whether you are or not. And if something bigger than you comes out of the woods, by God, you better bluff it. Because if they think that you think you're smaller, you're food, you're dinner. So I learned how to work with animals very early on, and I learned how to do a lot of energy push and pull, and I used it. I'm not gonna lie, I used it on my parolees that I supervised, especially the violent ones, the aggressive ones, because they come out of prison and they really only know how to gesticulate anyway. So, I just do the silent energy work on them, and it worked quite well. I might add, I had a huge success rate because they did not want to push my buttons. They knew better, and it was all from just the energy pressure I applied to them. And then when they got to where they were working on themselves, I would help them, and they had never had anyone, number one, care enough to give them good rules and make them follow them, and number two, when they saw improvement, to help them create more improvement. So I had a really good response from the people I supervised and had a huge success rate. It was a really good officer. The parole board was really sorry to lose me. TDOC didn't really care because I was asked a number of times to do things that were not legit, and when I said no, I'd always be punished. But that's just government. Y'all have seen it all. It's just government. If I were she wants attention so bad, and she thinks because I'm easy that she can get away with it. But oh my gosh! But now she's learning. She's learning. But I have to stay in education mode, and I can't break because if I break once, she remembers, and then she tries it again and again and again. So that's where we are. So if y'all have watched the last couple things in Yinzer, Booma, and Sabrina's audience as well, then I've been trying to show you. You can look. People tell on themselves all the time. Behavior tells on themselves. You can look at the research funding for almost any mental health or almost any health disorder. And you can look at the funding research for it. And right from about 2015-16 to about 2019, there was this huge frenzy in funding spent on almost every disorder that they get a big buck off of. And then it went flat. So there's this huge financial frenzy spending to get a bunch of information, let's start this, let's do this, we're on this. And then it just went silent for about a year and a half, 2 years. And then guess what? All these different databases, data collection, data analysis, research centers started climbing, just absolutely multiplying. When? In 2020. Especially stuff that was at home care, mental health apps, diagnoses and disorders that amplify with social withdrawal exacerbation noted. And I've looked at this now for several months, and I'm trying to educate y'all as much as I can without the overlords of YouTube getting very hateful at me. Because you can see, as I'm showing you, it wasn't just in North America. It was in Japan, China, India. It didn't hit, so like Brazil, like South America, Spain, they didn't really hit hot and heavy there. But almost everywhere else, it was like dead on 80% or more increase in getting this going. And so now I'm looking for patterns because I've identified there's a feeding frenzy of money. They throw a lot of money into research, data analysis, and data collection. And then it goes silent. And then in about 18 to 24 months, they start collecting the data, and all these research centers and stuff pop up about the time the problem starts. So you can see when they're getting ready to throw a social issue or a shift in things to throw us off. And then because everything's set up to the moment it hits, they can start collecting the data. Even almost sometimes months or a year beforehand, they start collecting the data. And no one, it's like, well, how do they know there's going to be a huge problem? Yes, indeed. How did they know? Hey, still not crazy. Hey, everybody. Thank you again for those feathers. They're, I'm going to use them on one that I'm working on right now. Yeah, she's in a little attention hog, but she is mischievous as heck, and I don't mind it because that means she's a thinker. But I have to show her that when you're in under my domain, you don't get to just think, oh well, I wonder if I tear that up, what it would be inside of it. No, you don't get to do that. Mama said no. So we're working on that. But so I've been looking at this pattern. And people say, well, why do you use graphs? I use graphs because fundamentally it's the easiest for everyone to absorb quickly when they're watching a short little minute or two information dialogue. So I don't want to overwhelm you, and that's like the easiest to compost for everybody. So, and it's a lot of people, if you give links or stuff like that, they won't go read them. Now, I tried to show you where it came from, so if you want to, you can go and look it up too. But a lot of people just don't want, they won't put they won't put the legwork in to learn anything for themselves or anyone else. They won't. And that goes into another problem we're having in the community, and we'll talk about that in a moment. We're seeing a lot of behaviors that they've known about for a long time, and they've been basically sitting there going, how do we exacerbate the issue, make it worse, so that we can amplify what we're learning, so that we can then use it for our gain. Because a lot of the problems we're seeing now in society are created. They're emotionally created scenarios or synopsis put forth to basically test us in everything. And a lot of the power we give people because we get emotional. It's our emotional response that they feed off of. Um, but it's also more than that too. Look at your phones. The push to give little kids phones. I was always like, why do they want these little kids to have these phones? Why would you give a little kid a phone? I just don't see it beneficial at all to lock a child out from the world. They need to be engaged in the world and out there playing and learning how to socialize and interact and have relationships. And so I've always been very much against giving a kid a device. Like my kids didn't get phones till like they were like 17, like almost out of my home because there was no reason. Um, and then you look now that they're taking these predictive data collection assessments through apps, and you're sitting there, everybody's like, you can tell people that they're you can say, oh well, that's okay, your algorithm is curated for you. No, it's not. Everybody goes there and it sees the same thing. Oh no, 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 no. Y'all need to get in a group of like 5 or 10 and switch phones for like 10 minutes and then just go surf and see what you run into. It will not be anything you normally see on your end of the deal. It will be completely different subject matter topics, discussions, different apps, that they're peddling. It will be completely different. I do this a lot with Dave because Dave did not understand how they did that. He thought I was just absolutely just fibbing a bit about that. And I said, you take my phone and let me have your phone. His phone was, geared toward a lot about hunting, outdoors, forums about the outdoors, but there would still be like medical stuff snuck in there, commercials, and are you having issues with this, or there would be an app that didn't quite fit that would be stuck in there and somehow try to be like meshed into that didn't quite fit. And he would be like, I said, if you want a real trip, go on Facebook because you won't see anything similar to what I see. Go on YouTube. You won't see anything. Like I'm trying to find crochet people to watch. There are thousands upon thousands of people that crochet on YouTube. It is so difficult for me to find one because they don't get a lot of information from that realm. So I have to like dig these people up. I have to search with specific words because it's not anything they really want to throw me because they're not getting a lot of data from me watching crochet. They just know I like to work with fiber art. They're not getting a lot of emotional turbulence from data, from crochet. Obviously, crochet is not a highly emotional thing. But if you look at the people that are prominent in the crochet, they are normally more drama driven, and they're normally more politically aligned. And I get sick of that because I'm crocheting. I don't need to know how you vote. I want to know how you knot strings. And but those people that just knot strings and share patterns and talk about the art, they don't get a lot of push algorithmically because they don't give a lot of data. So the people that are almost always first pushed are the people that are going to benefit them in some way. They're getting some kind of data analysis. They're getting some kind of information from the people that consume that material. And that's a lot of the reason why certain people succeed on YouTube, and why I've been here for like what, 10 plus years, and just now edging up to 4,800 people. And y'all find me in really weird ways when discussions turn to the really real topics that people actually do look up. That's how you find me, because I'm certainly not pushed in an algorithm unless you may watch Booma or Sabrina or Google Sabrina's name. I might come up then, but I'm certainly not pushed in the mainstream algorithm at all. I'm tagged and linked with other things, but nothing that's anyway mainstream at all. So that's why I've been here 10 plus years, and I'm still just now edging up on 48. It's why I'm still not monetized. We tried that one time, and then they kicked me out, and they took my money, and they said I had two what is it? Two of those places they pay you through, but I only have one. So they told me I had to close it out. I closed it out, and then it said we can't pay you unless you have one. So I registered to get one back, and then they said, "Wait, you have two." I give up. Like David was trying really hard because he loves to share his trapping and his way of life, and got a good base of people, and we were going to work really hard to try to be able to fit the bill for some meals going to North Carolina. YouTube will not let us fix this issue. They're not going to allow for any way for us to capitalize on this, and not that that's a main motive anyway. This is just a squawking box, basically. It's David enjoys sharing his way of life. I just like to hijack it and craft and be loud. So that's kind of what I do. But you can see on, when you find a really good creator and they're not very well known, and you follow them for like 2 or 3 years, and you're like, I love the little quiet side of the internet. And then as they start to get monetized, then they get a lot of deals. They get a lot of sponsorships. And then because they get sponsorships, a lot of their content changes, because with sponsorships comes rules and behavioral modification. And then you start to like less and less of their content because it changes energetically. It changes. It's controlled. It's no longer a free dialogue. It is basically patterned out. And then they start to get thrown into the algorithm. And I fully think YouTube only throws me in the algorithm when they think they're going to sink my ship and they send me trolls. But I have fun with trolls, so I don't know what they're thinking. Yeah, that's when I unfollow too. I don't enjoy people that when they start the sponsorships, they take so many that you can't watch a video without sponsorships. That bothers me. That bothers me a lot. It bothers me a lot. I don't know. It just, I would rather have a raw and unedited version of somebody and know everything that I like or dislike about them, rather than, have this cardboard, plain, curated for social consumption identity that I don't really understand, So, but I'm different. And I do spend time on pages of people that I don't particularly like as a person, because I need to know what's going on. And so I spend time over there, and I'm watching, I'm looking at behavior, and I'm looking at patterns of behavior. I'm looking at repeat words, repeat scenarios, looking for like trigger things. That's what I'm looking for. And a lot of people think I'm crazy. But if you remember several months ago, I got on here and I said there's words going all over the internet about the same kind of kaboom chemicals that kaboomed during 9/11 and all that. If you remember that, and I said, you should know this. It's freaking me out. And maybe it's just because we just passed the memorial date of 9/11, but I said, it's also in the market share side of things, with owners changing ownership and selling, big properties. And then 8 weeks later, there was that big kaboom of the ammo base in Tennessee that did all the government war bombs. So, I got a pretty good success rate for, what I'm curious about and what happens and what shows up. So, Y'all remember that? Yeah, I came on here and did a live and like this is bothering me, so I'm going to tell y'all about it. Yeah. Oh yeah, you got to pay attention to the other side. You better know they're mapping your behavior out. Big time. How do I know that? Well, you can see it in our own little family of friends here lately. Yes, with the man that likes to call me a female dog and ask me to say his name. I've said it 50,000 times. Lightning still hasn't struck. I don't know what his problem is. I've been paying a lot of attention lately to non-vaxxers side of things because there was a very public split. And Sabrina basically fired herself, but he was not having it. And I had known that there were some issues there. I never really cared for the man. I just never really cared for the man. A lot of it was just from pure body language. With the few videos I've really watched of his, it was just body language. He would constantly jet his chin up and would find humor in places that humor was not supposed to be. So the emotional congruence was always like not working out for me. And I didn't feel comfortable there. So I don't tell Sabrina what to do. He was building a library. Anybody can copy and paste. If he's good at that, so be it. Copy and paste. And I just kind of went about my business. And I knew that there had been some issues, and I knew that he had told her basically, you need to keep your biofield quiet. You need to keep your biofield practice quiet. Keep your eye. It was embarrassing. He said it was embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. When biofield practice is, just basically movement. It's just basically movement. But he found it embarrassing. But biofield practice and movement of your body, becoming aware of your body, becoming aware of the energy flow within your body, the electrical capacity within your body, and how it functions and how it, basically speaks to the environment around it. That's a huge part of understanding, number one, how you function in today's world, where they are using that electrical mentality of your body to basically collect data and suppress certain emotions, enhance others, apply pressure and momentum. They would call it momentum. It's a whole pay for play that they're using right now on us. And so he didn't want that shared. And I thought that was strange. I thought, because if he's reading the data that she's doing and he understands the true component of what is being, found, that you do have a biofield and you need to be aware of it and you need to know how to use it, then he would obviously want people to learn how to move their bodies, be aware, increase their energy vibration, increase their understanding, and learn how to basically enhance just being able to live in this world with all the pressures they're pushing on you. And so I thought that was very strange. And I told her for a long time ago, and you can ask her this. I told her a long time ago, I said, I don't like the man. And I said, I can't tell you why, but I don't like the man. And the first day she came to me, she said, I just fired myself. And I said, why? And she said, basically it was just controlling, and he had, I told her a long time ago, because he would always like send stuff to her and be like, what does this mean? And she would do a video on it. And then the next day the video would show on his thing. And I said, listen, I said, he's got to be doing this for finances. Otherwise he would just tell people there's a list of resources here if you want to see this link to your Odyssey. I said, this has got to be financial on his part. She goes, oh, no. And Sabrina always wants to believe the best in somebody. And I give her credit because, listen, I have a hard time doing that anymore. But she really does try. And she thinks if you're willing to learn about this, that you must be, at least open in some regard to sharing it and helping others. A lot of people also want to manipulate. They've learned it from the life they live in this society. Manipulation is a big bankroll. And so I've been spending a lot of time in his telegrams, snooping around. I'm not speaking. I'm not causing problems. I'm just snooping. I'm just a fly on the wall listening to all the crap going on. And he's sharing all this very, like, personal beliefs about Sabrina. And I'm like, well, you're sharing it as fact when it's just an opinion. Are you a fly on the wall? And these people are swallowing it and they're jumping in. And yeah, that's what I believe too. That's what, okay, well, for 2 weeks, all they've talked about is personal opinion on somebody's personal life that is not going to benefit them in any way on the biofield. But then he said something the other day, and I thought, oh my God, I wish everybody could hear that. And I may at some point go back and clip it. And I saved it, but I may go back and clip it and share it. He said, yes, so when there was something I couldn't understand, I would send it to Sabrina. And I didn't care as long as the next day I got a video on it that I could share. I didn't care what was going on, so I didn't talk about that. But now I care. Now and I'm like, so he just then said, I don't understand this. I send it to her. She makes sense of it, does a video, and I share it to you. But I'm telling you to come to me to understand this, but I just basically said I don't understand any of it. That I have to go to her, and she gives me the video that I give to you. And that's when I gain understanding too, is when we watch her. But I'm telling you not to go to her, to come to me, but I go to her. I get all the information from her because I just said I don't understand anything. And I'm sitting here going, but why are people still here? So the last couple of weeks, I've just kind of taken a note on percentages, statistical data. I love research. And over 80% of every topic shared on his Telegram for the last 2 weeks has been a personal inference made about Sabrina's life. So you're only getting 19.7 actually percent or less of any information about the biofield or any of the programs currently going on, collecting data and using your biofield against you. But yet he's there for education. Okay. But it correlates with what I did when I did the background on him, when I found the Canadian charges and where he was basically going to sue his landlord for not spraying for bed bugs. Instead of buying a counter raid, calling an exterminator, and getting himself and his child to safety, he actually went and called the Evening 6 News and blew it up. So, with this, when something doesn't jive with him, he blows it up. It's a repetitive performance. It is a learned behavior. It's all he knows how to do to maintain control. He's going to do it to everybody. So anybody that is willing to stay there with him and go through this, you're next. Because this is the only way he knows how to handle things. When it's going good, all's fine. When it's not, he will make you self-implode. He will be the catalyst to create a huge combustion. And then he will sit there and whine and claim to be the victim until everybody feels sorry for him. And if you don't believe me, go look up his name and bed bugs and look at his 6 Evening News performance. I'd have been ashamed. So if y'all want to trust somebody that can't go buy a can of Raid and call an exterminator, has to go to the 6 Evening News and throw a shit fit, that's on y'all. That's on y'all. I wouldn't do it. I'm looking for somebody that has some cognition. That's kind of a priority on my list of things people must have to be around me. A brain that works is way up there on the top of the list. I'm just going to tell you. So, I've been paying a lot of attention, but people are going back. Well, why are people going back to that? Because the only thing more addictive than love is hate. And what did I say? When people try to get you to feel big emotions, it's because they want big control. And what has his platform been for 2 weeks? Big emotions. And then people going on and trying to create a wave of the same emotion because it's funny and it's the news of the moment. It's the comment of the moment. We want to see who can make each other laugh about this, and that's it. The only thing more addictive than love is hate. And so I've gone over and Sabrina's had to make a couple of videos about you can stop now, because they've been trying to go after and kind of troll her group of people and her areas and her Odyssey and her Telegram and create a lot of the same momentum over there. But the people on her platforms they're like, no, not necessary. We don't want that here. Go away. And so they're still talking about the biofield. I think it's like 94% or more is biofield. I think like the last like over 4.5% is memes, which I love the memes on the Telegram. I'm all for the memes. They're great. Even the memes that are made about things I say, I love them. Keep doing it. It makes me laugh. And I'm sitting there going, okay, well, you can see the priorities in these groups. And, and I would ask people to start looking at things a little more like this. If you're looking for education, make sure you're looking, at who's focusing on education, not just focusing on the things that make you feel good or make you think you're learning. We're not looking for entertainment here. We're really looking to learn. Now, of course, there comes a moment where you have to stand up and say, hey, this is enough. It needs to stop. You're crossing a line, blah, blah, blah. And sadly, that's still how a lot of people, factory knot, I hate them. That's still how a lot of people bankroll. And it just shows the emotional that's going on. Now, somebody just said they feared for her children. Her children are adults, and bless her heart, because of the family and the background, the life the life they've had, they are more aware of how to be safe. So and we appreciate, but they're prepared. But it's very rude to see people behave like this, and and I've been very nice in the way I've handled things, and if I've dogged them, I've done it with a fact. The criminal record in Canada, and then the W6 video, it speaks volumes about his repetitious behavior and basically, his skill set to handle any kind of hubbub he faces. He's going to create a huge issue, make it a battlefield, and then whine and play the victim until everybody feels sorry for him. And I don't feel sorry for somebody that's 40 plus years old that doesn't know how to go to the Dollar General or the Dollarama and get a can of bug spray, or remove him and his child before they're ridden with bites. I mean, it doesn't take like a medical professional to tell you don't want to be there that long. But listen, if you have those deficits, don't go on the internet and say, I'm the last bastion for education about this topic. I get all my information from somebody else, but I don't want you to know that. Come to me. I built this library. Yes, he has copied and pasted and downloaded and uploaded someone else's content for years. He's really good at it. A+. When it comes to his content, he's not bringing y'all anything. And he was really upset when she completely detached. And I was really proud of her, because I don't tell her what to do, but I didn't care for the man. A few times I watched him, I just didn't care for him. And the crap he's saying on his Telegram, you can just go listen to the messages. Well, he's doing a lot of inferring. He's inferring that he's correct, and then he's creating a whole environment for people to wade into and be with him in this mental environment about Sabrina as a person. He's creating it all. And there are people wading right in going, oh, yeah. And they're taking it all as fact. And I'm just sitting here going, okay, that's cute. I try not to jump into somebody else's psychosis, but hey, what you do, you boo. But it's really sick because, hey, guess what? All the tricks that the government uses to keep us in line, he elicits every day. And I've been really quiet, thinking that maybe he would just shut up and go away. But if you watch the drama counter, his people are just dead set on being jackasses. And I don't think it's going to stop. And I only think it's going to worsen as the world continues, because we are in a society where very few people have the mentality to compost the data and readily understand, absorb, compost, digest, all the words you want to throw in there, and then regurgitate for others to understand enough to want to then research further for themselves. We are in such a limited, we're in a cognition deficit We know we're in a retention deficit because nobody can even remember a phone number, but we're in a true cognition era deficit socially. And they're taking advantage of it. Taking advantage of it. I mean, if you want to put yourself there, that's fine. Put yourself there. I'm not going to tell you not to, but just understand what's going on. But I mean, if you want to shock, you can go to his Telegram and hear what he's saying. And I'm sitting here shaking my head because I'm like, the people that are rallying around him, like the Kibbles and Bits dog that jumps over the other one and amping him up. I'm like, you don't know that you're probably the next one on the list. If you step out of line or you do not synchronize to his way of thinking and being in his world, and his world is far reaching. Basically, if he creates an awareness of it, then he controls it. That's scary. Then you're next on the chop block, because he doesn't tell you what the contract is to belong. He changes it as it goes so that he can attack as he needs to. And but I really think he shot himself in the foot this time, because her normal response to him was to submit and back off and do whatever he said. And it was because she just, from a lifetime of being abused, she was really trying to get information out there and trying to understand how to socialize in a way to get the information out there. And she thought surely if somebody had the wherewithal to understand how important the information was, they had to be a good person. If they were trying to they had to be a good person, right? And it took her a while to understand, no, that's not the case. And I'm very proud of her for, putting a good boundary down and saying, I'm sorry, no more. But he really thought she'd back up and just do whatever. And so now that she has broken away and he's not going to get to curate what what she's giving out, because he would find stuff that he didn't understand, send it to her, and then she'd make a video on it the next day. So he would look at stuff and not be able to draw any information from it. He would send it to her, and then he would come to y'all and say, oh, I found this. And, and then Sabrina talked about it. Oh, it was because he was sending it to her. He was curating what he wanted to know. Then he could act like that she was also on the same tangent. And so he's lost that capability. So what are you going to be learning from him now? Nothing. Whatever he can copy and paste and download from Odyssey. But as far as what is he going to be able to say he's checking into and also Sabrina just did nothing? Because he doesn't have the power anymore. So it's going to limit his Wizard of Oz perspective a whole lot. So he's probably just going to get more and more angry as time goes on, because, it's not like you're going to find another Sabrina Wallace. So he's been very violent. He wants her basically shut off the internet, because if he can't control what she's speaking about, he doesn't want her speaking, because he was the person that was curating the library, so to speak. He was getting it all from her, but he was sending her stuff he didn't understand so that he could say, I'm working on this, send it to her, and she would tell him how to process it, and then he'd be like, oh, yeah, and Sabrina's actually working on this too. Imagine that. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah, imagine that. But I mean, pull back the curtain, and what is he? A little strange man sitting at a computer, hopefully with a can of Raid nearby. But Sabrina doesn't like to say things about people unless she, has to. But listen, I draw a lot of knowledge from motives and actions. And this doesn't bode well for the people on his platforms that really cleave to him for information. It doesn't bode well, because he doesn't have an information outlet anymore. He's going to have to get the information everybody else does. So he's not going to be super ahead of the curve anymore. So he's not going to be, people are not going to be hunting him down to stay on top of things, because he's not going to be on top of things anymore, because he can't dictate what Sabrina's talking about. He can't curate the knowledge, and he can't say, oh, and she's thinking about the same thing. And because he sent it to her 12 hours ago and he knows she is. So he's not going to be, at the front of the pack anymore. And I'd say he's probably very unhappy about that. He's just going to be another person that's doing Sabrina Wallace clips and bringing her information. I mean, he can still copy and paste and create a library. That's great. Like I said, A+, he's great at that. That's useful. I'm not going to dog it. It's useful. But even if they had a personal falling out, someone with her capacity and intelligence about what is currently going on, would you blow up that relationship? Would you burn that bridge? Would it be in your best interest to burn that bridge? No. But when you're kind of, the abuser complex and you keep people in stress mode, you keep them stressed out a little bit to think that they have to, sway. You don't think they're going to snap. You don't think they're going to get the wherewithal, from somewhere that they've not had, to say, sorry, I'm done with this. I'm not going to be this person anymore. And that's why I'm proud of Sabrina. She's finally putting down some boundaries that say, no, peace out. And a lot of people that were bankrolling on her are now sitting there on their thumbs going, well, what the heck? Yeah, what the heck? Some cordial niceness and just some, social lubricant of polite words would have gone a long way. Just having the ability to, when you're upset, to not jump and attack their families or to try to create narratives because of what you think you infer from the small tidbits of stuff that she shares. It's just like, wow. It's just like, wow. And I'm not talking out my butt. Sabrina has come and stayed in my home. She stayed with me for a couple of weeks, last summer. She's visited me at least once or twice a year for the last 3 years. And we spent a lot of time talking. And, there's a lot of stuff that I don't tell y'all because it's none of y'all's business. It's none of y'all's business. And it's stuff that even if something happened to where she was not my super favorite person in the world, I wouldn't use it against her because that's just not right. It would not have anything to do with the education she provides to people. It would just merely be something to do with maybe a personal difference that I couldn't cross over. Okay, well then I would peace out, but I wouldn't try to blow up her compatibility rating with everyone on the internet because what she has to say is very important. So to see somebody go for that, go for the grenade launcher first thing, it kind of tells you tactical skills don't have anymore. It's either blow up or be blown up. I don't like to deal with people like that. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there. Where do we see this readily deployed? Oh yeah, most of our government stuff. A lot of our social justice stuff. A lot of the stuff where they are, breeding the contention to keep us mad at each other so that we're not speaking, so that we can't, mass share education and information and get together and have a huge awakening and enlightenment. And I tell people all the time, big emotions, big trouble, because they're wanting big control. And but I tell you what, then I see a big emotion happen and people run right for it. And I'm like, okay, well, put a ring in your nose because they're going to lead you wherever they want you to go. Wherever. And you may sit here going, I don't want to hear this. Well, you may not want to hear it, but a lot of people that are stuck in this washing cycle that he's got them in, they don't know they're stuck. They don't understand. They haven't stopped feeding on their endorphins and serotonin and dopamine long enough to realize they've not learned anything productive in 2 or 3 weeks. And all they've been stuck on is an emotional diatribe, placed on hoping to ridicule Sabrina off the internet. Well, how's that going to benefit anybody? Well, it's not, but they don't stop to think about the end result. And so I'm just sitting here going, people, stop and think about the end result for 5 seconds. Stop and think about it. Who do we need? Do we need somebody that's teaching us about all this government systems and how they're deploying this, how lawfare is no longer working, how they're deploying a lot of these wearables, and how they're sneaking a lot of stuff by us? And because there's a lot of stuff that I read that I have to read 5, 10 times before I get an inkling of the information that Sabrina gets in the first over, and she listens to everything in like 3 times the speed. And she picks up on 10 times more than I pick up on, and 3 times the speed. Or do we, do we need that person more? Do we need the person that can't go get a bottle of Raid and talk to his landlord? Do we need the person that thinks he has to call the evening news immediately and do an emotional, battle cry to create a victim mentality and have people feel sorry for him? I'm just going to trust the person that's talking about the facts and giving me government links and is just trying to say, hey, something, leave me be. I'm trying to educate the public. If you don't like what I'm doing, then don't come click on it. But I think my big thought behind this, and I'm not reading the chat, so if you're cussing me out, good for you. I'm too blind to care. But I think a lot of it, a lot of the people that were trolling her and causing her a lot of stress, I think a lot of it may have been coming from him for a long time, just to make her think that a lot of people hated her so that she would still cleave to the one person that believed her. But then as more people started believing her, he wasn't just the sole person that believed her. She had, more friends and more outlets, and these other friends and outlets didn't quite act like him. And she wondered why she was running into just specific behaviors from him. And then she put it all together and thought, well, I don't have to be here for this. I can do this another way. Yeah, you can. Great recognition point. Proud of her. So that's kind of how that worked out. But I really think he may have been creating a lot of the pressure to try to keep her in that mentality. And, if that is the case, that's sad. That's sad. Or at least he was a byproduct of the pressure, because it seemed to be a lot of the people that visited his platform that then created a lot of the needless chatter, that kept her in a very bad frame of mind. I mean, this is a person who's been through a lot and who still has the wherewithal and the amazing capacity to stand up and tell us everything she's experienced, and here's things you need to know. She puts a lot on the line to tell us what is happening, because it happened to her, and she understands what's going on. So it's tedious to see people try to hurt her in any way, or try to manipulate her through emotions. It's just, there's no reason. She is the fount of knowledge, and if you're sharing her work, then you're sharing her work. But there's no reason to try to hold her captive and emotionally manipulate her, so that you can appear like you're some kind of Wizard of Oz. Just tell people what you are. You're somebody who found out that she was important and smart and wanted to profit off of it. And when you can't profit off the information, then you profit off the drama. And that's sick. That's sick. So, but a lot of people just don't notice things like that. And I do, because a lot of the people that have spent time in prison, they would come out and they would try to play their prison games on people outside of prison. And a lot of people on the outside wouldn't pick up on it. But because I was in a lot of prisons and I was institutional parole officer and I had to deal with a lot of people, and I was always in the prison serving paperwork and doing this, that, and the other, doing assessments and getting people ready for release and serving sentencing paperwork, I saw a lot of the behavior firsthand. So when they would come out and still have the same behavior, I'd be like, well, that's the same behavior. They just manipulated it into this population. And then I'd make a note in their file when I would deal with them. Big time manipulator. Watch your P's and Q's. You don't give them information they don't need. Because they would try to use it against you. So I don't know. I readily see these things. I guess the world that I had to work in and the world that I had to become aware of, and I don't like it because when you become aware of it, then you can't stop seeing it. And I really wish that I could just have the warm fuzzies and see society as a wonderful place again, full of possibilities. I would love it because all I see is possible danger, very few people that are worth their salt, a lot of manipulators. And it's kind of a sad life after you work in that side of things and you see, the capacity and what people actually can become. And I thought, well, I'm retired, I won't have to deal with this anymore. But society is only getting institutionalized itself. A lot of people say, oh, people that come out of prison that are institutionalized, it changes their whole persona, how they deal with people, how they react, how they respond. But guess what? When y'all were in your house for 3 years, y'all gonna institutionalize a little bit too. And people didn't see it. People didn't understand. Same thing that happens to them when they're behind a cell door was happening to you because you were behind your home door. You were withdrawn. Look at the stuff they're studying on you. I just showed you what they're studying on you. They know from your phones that if you're socially withdrawn and you're not traveling and you're losing sleep, that you're going to be depressed and anxious. And they know that the more depressed and anxious you are, the more likely you are to have a mental health issue. And the more likely you are to have a mental health issue, the more likely and susceptible you are to certain types of pressure. Well, guess what? They just learned the whole scheme of how to control everybody. They just use what they're learning from your phones in which pressure to push currently. And people don't realize that you were institutionalized when you were staying home from this big bad cold. I don't know why we were all so scared of a dog cold. I worked in the vet offices for years, and everybody was terrified of a dog cold. If you want to be scared of something that spreads, that is zoonotic, be scared of brucellosis. That sucker's, breed that. Be scared of that. As someone that used to process wild hog meat, we were very aware. And so I was like, if you want to be scared of something, be scared of something that can really get. This is a common cold in a dog. But people, when I would tell people the information that I had from years of working with vets and animals, they'd be like, "Oh, Elizabeth, shut up." Well, here we are, now 6 years later, people going, "Oh my God, Elizabeth, why didn't I listen to you?" Well, you got emotional, and then you cleaved to the person you thought was more helpful because they were prominent on the internet. Well, now we know they're prominent because the algorithm makes them prominent because they are algorithmically curating to create the social response. Why do they want a social response? Because they're doing predictive programming and they want to know where to put their money so they can create these programs. They can then create federal funding so they can then pocket the cash again. So not only are we not important enough to really help when we're having issues, but we're so not important that they just really want to make money off of us. Because a lot of these funding and research programs, as we're learning in Minnesota, if you're following the Minnesota scandal right now, a lot of these funding and research programs are bullcrap. Absolute and utter bullcrap. When I worked for AmeriCorps and I did a contract with AmeriCorps while I was doing all my physical therapy after all my surgeries to get back in the game, I worked in the Appalachia literacy program where I worked with second and third graders to improve reading comprehension in that age group. But what they didn't tell you was most of the parents really didn't know how to read, which was why the kids were getting behind. Because while they would almost get caught up at school, they couldn't then go home and practice because they didn't have a parent that read to them. So I had to also teach parents to read. So I was only contracted to work at school during school hours with the kids, but I would stay later and make pamphlets for parents. I would meet parents after school hours, and I would give them pamphlets and I would help them understand the vocabulary words. I basically taught parents how to read so that their kids could then go home and read, so that those kids would then build up the speed and be ready to go to third and fourth grade. And when the whole time I worked that contract, I had not one person check up on me. Now I had to keep ledgers of my time, where I was at every moment. I had my lesson plans, everything that I was implementing. I only worked with the second and third grade teachers, so those were the only ones that could verify if I was doing my job or not. Although when I was there for more hours waiting on parents and stuff, I would help the upper level teachers get ready for lesson plans. I would, make copies, run this, do that. I was the helper. So they saw me, I was there, but no one ever checked on me. And so I asked my department leader that had hired me. I said, "How do you know?" She said, "Well, I don't." She said, "That's why we had to do one community project every like quarter, and so once every 2-3 months we get together and we would like clean a park, mulch a playground, something like that." And she said, "That's kind of when we check in and make sure everybody's still on task. Are they showing up? Are they still invested in the program?" But she said, "I don't get to look at your ledgers until you turn them in at the end of the contract year." And I said, "That blows my mind." I said, "That could be a whole 10 months lost on these kids that, if you had checked on them earlier, could have been repaired." And she said, "Yeah." She said, "I wish I had everyone just like you." She said, "Because then I would not have any fear of any child being left, someone taking this job that did not want it." Um, and that kind of that was a sad realization to me, that a lot of these government contracts that people have are, just by what she told me, they are abused financially and not followed through on. And so I started watching those things very close in my area. And sure enough, a lot of the people that get these grants never do anything with it. They'll make a storefront, they'll do one or two community interest things, and then they'll get awarded like $4 million for a rural area. And then you won't see any improvement. But in 5-10 years, that family who had that one contract federal grant, oh, well, they tried, it didn't work out. Now all of a sudden they're driving brand new vehicles, and the husband started 2 new businesses. I had somebody look at me right when I was fixing to retire. They said, "Well, you could get a federal grant and work part time in helping the community get some interest built here." And I said, I don't want a federal grant. Everybody that I've seen with a federal grant is a piece of shit." I said, I don't want a federal grant. And I wouldn't do that, but I didn't want to be in that pool of people. I did not want to be in that pool of people. So I have, and a lot of it for me also has been with people with rehab centers, drug addiction rehab centers. And somebody got a huge federal grant for rural areas to get what they call a newborn deposit box, not even lying. It is a heated box that certain businesses, they take a financial plus from this grant to put a heated box that can be accessed even after hours of business on their business, that anyone during the nighttime can come and put an infant into, without question, give up their child. Okay, now on premise, it would say, well, this would probably save a lot of people, especially in metro areas where people are singular people in a sea of people and don't have there's a lot of problems in metro areas. Populated areas have a lot more people, therefore they have a lot more problems. But they use these in rural areas. So there were rural areas where the businesses that they put them at were like drug rehab centers or counseling centers that weren't even open every day, so that if somebody did put a baby there, they wouldn't be noticed every day. They wouldn't be checked every day, because it was up to the business to maintain the checking. They put it in places that didn't even have hospitals to, to check the child before it could be transported anywhere else. Blew my mind how they wasted the money. And then I looked at the person that had started this, and guess what? Yeah, in the last 6 months, they've come into a lot of money and started a business doing quite well for themselves. And it's just, they just level up and learn how to play the game in a more manipulative fashion. And if you are abusing the government contracts out there, the federal funding that goes out, it doesn't mean you're smarter than the government. It means you're just as sorry as the government. I don't know why people think they're leveling up and being smarter than you. It just means you're just as sorry as the government. Learning to abuse something does not mean you're smart. Normally, it means you're lazy. And that's why I get so mad at people that are low level offenders, because they think they're lazy, but the amount of effort they put at being lazy, if they put that effort toward being decent people, they could be God knows what. But the true people that don't want to, don't want to do a lot of work, they find ways to manipulate and access other things, and they think they're unlocking potential within themselves, but they're not. They're not. They're just leveling up on their sorriness aspect. So just be hyper aware of people and the ploy and the schemes that they put out. You got to be hyper aware. It's sad, really. Hang on, I need to be able to read. I got another message held. Oh, I'll show that one. Is that Henry? Why do we think that it happened with non-vaccinated? I honestly think he was just somebody that thought he had found somebody that was going to socially be an interest. And I think he thought that he was going to build some platforms on the social interest. I don't think he thought it was going to be near as important to people and such a big issue as it is. And because he, like he says, he didn't understand it. He goes to her and she tells everything to him, and then he reposts. So I don't think he understood what he was getting into. He just understood that this was going to create a lot of interest, and he wanted to be on the front slope of it so he could kind of dictate it and make a buck or two maybe. But the thing is that's all I can figure, because if it was for just educating people, he would not have put the restrictions, and he would not have this overlord position of, you're wrong, you can't do that, I told them no. Well, it's public. Everywhere you're at is a public forum, and the ownership is a very loose word when you're on a public forum. And you're sharing someone else's work. So what does he actually intellectually own? The copy and paste button, which all of y'all do too. So literally everyone in the world could be doing what he's doing. You just create a page, and then you go to her Odyssey and you download that video and you reshare it, and you take the benefit from it. You say that you've got an in, and then maybe you do worm your way in, and then you start curating and saying, well, I'm thinking about this, and oh, boom, well, she is too. What do you know? Well, yeah, we know, because you asked her about it and sent her a bunch of stuff you didn't understand, and now she told you. But don't walk off and say that you're some kind of Wizard of Oz, that you magically link with this person. No, literally anybody that copies and pastes can do what he's doing. Now, where you might falter is the control aspect, because he seems to be very good at that, the manipulation, the victimization, the creating a tense area to where you don't really know which way to step, but you know any way you step is going to be wrong. You know, that pucker factor of about 25 plus. That's not comfortable. No, you're not comfortable when you're in his realm. You're not at all. And that's by design. It's by design. You're only comfortable if you're in his good graces. Therefore, everybody wants to be in his good graces. But why? Well, because they think that he's brought this whole big library, but he's not actually. He just told you, I don't understand this. I send it to her. And then 12 hours later, she sends me a video and I repost it. So what benefit is he really? Because she puts everything up on Odyssey, anybody can get it for free. Right? Now, when people started following her personally closer, she was having a lot of very violent emails, messages, contact. And she explored going behind a paywall, which I was for, because I was like, listen, trolls have a lot of everything. They have a lot of time. They don't have a lot of money. So even a $5 would stop a lot of the trolling. And I said it might help you mentally stay focused and not have to deal with this shite that's pulling up every 5 seconds on your accounts and stuff. And I was like, you may be at the place to where you're doing so much research, you deserve it, and you deserve to not be hammered by these idiots. So I was all for it. He was not. And he was the voice behind her saying, oh no, it's got to stay free. It's got to stay free. But he was like, well, you can put the biofield behind a paywall, keep the biofield private, keep the, and because it was embarrassing. He didn't like the biofield because he thought when people looked at that, it was woo woo and crazy. Just like if you believe in Jesus, you're, stupid and brainwashed. And so while he doesn't mind you getting information, it's only the information that he deems necessary and good, but don't open your mouth about having a religion or a spiritual side, because he will ridicule you to no end. That doesn't sound like somebody that's really there for all the right reasons to me, because if you're really there for humanity is varied widely, and we just kind of have to say, there are personal components to this that I'm not going to agree with everybody, but I believe that everybody should have the chance to know this, and I shouldn't dictate who has the ability to know this. And if they find it here, I'm just glad they find it here. So, I don't know, just contradictory behaviors, I look at actions, long-term behaviors and actions, and patterns of behavior. And I just don't see, I don't see anything that is beneficial with what I'm seeing from that side of things. I just don't, and I'm not like a super important. I'm just a place to come and throw out ideas and theories and feel like you're having tea with a friend. I'm just kind of a space to kind of chew the fat and think and throw out some theories and throw out some ideas and not be ridiculed, not be laughed at. So I wouldn't say that I'm super important either. But I'm not sitting here trying to curate y'all and manipulate y'all. Y'all go out there in the wild blue yonder and do whatever you want to. I don't care. It ain't up to me. That's on you. It's between you and Jesus. I don't care. But I'm not going to ridicule you, because heck, some of the stuff that I have to be interested in to get a well-rounded opinion is stuff that I never would have thought I would have to feign interest in to get a well-rounded opinion. So I'm not going to make fun of anybody else that's looking into something that's made them go, huh? Because I've had to look into some crazy stuff to understand some behavior of man. I'm just going to say it. So I'm not going to ridicule you for what you think you have to look into. Not at all. Because people, there's a million different ways to look at everybody, and we need everybody looking. So I'm not gonna make fun of you. The porch chat. Yeah, I'm the porch chat lady. I just like to talk about stuff, and stuff that I think you should be aware of, you might want to pay attention to. ideas you might want to roll around in your noggin. Sometimes I'm rolling it around and I think maybe I don't have the best perspective. So I let y'all roll it around, tell me how y'all come to think about it. And I learn a lot from y'all. Y'all say you learn a lot from me, but I really think I learn a lot from y'all. And just to have a place to decompress online, just to show up and know that you're welcome, and that I'm gonna go back and read all the comments and respond when they load, and we're gonna have a dialogue. We're not gonna be buttholes. That's just such a wonderful thing this day and age, because there are not very many places that do that anymore. And it's just beneficial mentally. And I tell everybody this, it's great to be able to do it here, but you should also be doing this in real life. You should be going out to friends' houses, having that cup of coffee, having that cup of tea, having those discussions, and doing that energy swap in person, because it's much more beneficial to do it in person. But I understand if you can't, like with my health, I can a lot. So this is, it's a good second, but it's not the best, but it's a good secondary option. And so that's, why I'm here a lot. I do have to get firm with some people that want to come here and say naughty things or ask horrible questions that, have nothing to do with what we're discussing. They're just trolls and bad people in the world, but I try not to ridicule anybody. But I will talk about behavior, especially behavior of people that put themselves in a category of being leaders. If you're going to put yourself on a podium, I'm going to look a little bit harder. And if I see something that I don't think jives with it, I'm going to talk about it. And that's healthy. And if you think you need to attack me or call me names, whatever. I've been called everything but a white girl, and I guess it's going to bother me now. Went through 20 years of working with people that were very adept at very nasty responses, some of which I actually got a good chuckle out of. Because I sit there and I'm like, how long did they think about that? They thought about me for 5 hours. Oh, shucks. Don't boost my ego. But I'm just weird. I'm just different. And I look at things. And I look at things from a very analytical perspective because of the world of corrections and felonious behaviors that I worked in for a long time. I identify a lot of those same behaviors in people that put themselves in leadership roles that I'm like, oh, but wait. That behavior is not conducive to a true leadership role. It's conducive to a felonious role. And then, you start to understand that they have more criminogenic behaviors. And then you're like, well, wait. And then you do a background. And you're like, okay, yeah, they do have criminogenic behaviors. And then you go, y'all might need to know this. And people are like, oh, blow her off. But we're going to listen to the guy that is screaming at people that they're brainwashed for believing in Jesus. Okay. You can't stop people from being, attracted to what they're attracted to. And some people do like a beat down, and they get their jollies from it. And the world's just a wickedly crooked place. And at the end of the day, I wish I didn't see these things. I wish I didn't understand. I wish I only saw the good in people. But if I am capable of seeing this, I'm going to let you know it too, because it's saved me a whole lot of skin off my ass in my life. So I'm going to let y'all know what I see. Is Ophelia in here? Ophelia got some rib earrings for me for Christmas, and they look marvelous on her. Marvelous. Lona, honey, I'm not believing you. You were just out. You're driving me nuts. So that's kind of what I wanted to say. I wanted to pop on here and say, and what I've noticed in the behaviors and what we're looking at, the researching, and they create the behaviors, they can create the research, they can fund the money, but they actually fund the disorder. So, we see them hype up a lot of stuff that doesn't need to be hyped up because they found a way to make money off of it. So we never know if we're walking into something that is truly like a health or mental health issue, or is it just being driven financially? We have a lot of questions we have to ask, and we have to ask it of our government now because we're seeing a lot of the government manipulation with funds. Look at Minnesota right now. I mean, Lord have mercy. How many kids are going without aid because Minnesota won a $10 million grant that is not being applied correctly? How many kids that truly like have a deficit that could have had aid are having it stripped away because that grant went to someone who was just a liar and a thief? Um, we have to start being more skeptical of the people in positions of power. And if they put themselves in a position of power, we have to expect more from them. And we have to be vocal about that. And you have to be able to be vocal. And if you start to be vocal and you get ridiculed and shot down, and then they try to tear you apart viciously, that's not a leader. That's an asshole. That's leadership roles or potential, because a leader would be like, I'm glad you have those questions, and this is how we're going to get those answers for you, and you have every right to have those questions. They wouldn't then jump on you and try to ridicule you into oblivion and make you hide. So be careful, who you give your energy to, because a lot of people don't deserve it. A lot of people use it in ways that's, not productive. And a lot of people use the same tactics our government use to malign us every day. And we readily accept it and identify it when the government does it, but we don't when someone else does it. We have to start understanding the behavior from a root behavior perspective rather than it comes from a root group. We have to say, no, it's a behavior, it's an action. I need to identify this more readily. I need to understand it more quickly. Because you will save yourself, putting a lot of energy where it doesn't belong, in just learning how to identify the good and the bad, and understanding, who is using my energy for a positive and who is using it for a negative. Just be hyper aware. Be hyper aware. Look for people that place a little bit more of a burden upon themselves, that put themselves in a leadership role. If they want to expect more out of you, you should be able to expect more out of them. And then see if they deliver. If they don't deliver, make a healthier decision. Choose someone else. Go another way. I have messed up a stitch. Maybe not. Okay, maybe not. Scared myself there for a minute. It's a drunken granny stitch, and it will make your eyes cross eventually. So you kind of go. You have to hold it up and look at it once in a while. And go what? But it's very pretty with the colors. But Lord have mercy, it'll drive you crazy when you're doing it. So, and y'all know I'm only on when my health allows me. I have, there are times that there are things that I want to attack, but is it worth my energy? No. No. I hate seeing people put into contrarian categories. Like, I hate to see people build an army of emotions when there's no need for it. We should be an army of intelligence. Why are we building an army of emotions? Emotions are bus stops in life. You spend 15 minutes with one and you go to another. Your intelligence you pack forever. I'm focused on intelligence. Be aware of people that play you and what they're playing you for, and just be aware. Do some background research, studies, heck, almost borderline stalk. Get to know people, because a lot of people that really love control in a internet component, they will have tried it 50,000 times before, and you can find those failed attempts and identify if they're still using tactics or not. And then you can kind of say, well, was this an organic issue, that just blossomed, or is this a role they've been trying to play for 10, 15 years and they just got lucky? I look at that too. I look at people, I sit and watch for a long time. And, I like to talk, and when I feel safe, I will talk. But I sit and watch for a long time. I make notes of people's names that come across a lot. If they stick out as someone that either creates a lot of compassion in the dialogue. It creates a lot of contention. They have a specific pattern to their responses. They use a lot of the same words. I make note of that, with the prominent people, and I watched them for a while, and I want to know, are they really truly good people? It's just kind of something you've got to do, especially when you're packing the information I'm packing on societal issues. You just learn to watch these things. And I've been super careful since I got to know Sabrina, because I knew how important she was. I knew how important she was going to be, and I knew there was going to be a lot of false starts as she grew in popularity. And I didn't necessarily want to be the popular one, but I definitely wanted to be there for her and wanted to watch who came to the feeding frenzy and for what purpose. And I think a lot of that is paid off at this point. So that's where I am on that. Anyway, just some stuff I wanted to talk about. I really think that when it comes to funding, grants, programs, research centers, data collection centers, we got to start paying attention. We got to start paying attention to the people that put themselves in leadership roles in community and on platforms. And we have to raise the expectations of these people. We hang on a minute. You're chill. Be good. And interpersonal relationships, we got to do better, y'all. We got to do better. We can't, if somebody has a disagreement with us, we can't turn them into a monster. we can't say, I don't like them, therefore you can't like them, and turn them into a monster, because at some point we're all going to disagree with every other person on the planet. And what happens when we start turning everybody into a monster? Then we have no groups, we have no cohesion, we have no family. Detrimental. Okay, so I'm not going to agree with a lot of y'all. Probably not going to call y'all out on it until you start to affect a large group of people. Then I probably will. But otherwise, I'm just like, these are just inconsistencies in normal behavior until they flip a certain trigger. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. But I think that y'all are adults too, and I think y'all know who you need to listen to and who you don't. I think that you can take information from someone and apply it in your own way. You don't have to come to me, and say, take a list of who you may and may not talk to. And no, you can take pointers from me from what I've discerned through all my career. But the application needs to be with you. Luna May, no ma'am. The application needs to be with you. And you need to be applying it based on your belief system, your feelings, your discernment, because it's your journey. And you need to be aware of that. And when someone's trying to hijack that control, be aware of it. So just put it into play, focus, pay attention, and, kind of keep your hackles up sometimes. Sometimes it's okay to be leery a little bit longer than you normally would. It may be beneficial. And, and just realize that, a lot of people will not call people out on their jackassery. After a certain amount of time, I will. I will. If it starts to affect people that I care about or people that I think are learning something, they need to be focused on that. But I will. Because I think we're in an important learning curve where people are starting to, once again, learn about the base root issues they need to learn about. Not these fictitious things they created in school, but base root issues about themselves, their body, and basically the interconnectivity of the world and the way it's changing. We're learning again, and we need to be focused on that. And so anybody that comes in and tries to hijack and take it way over here, I'm going to go, excuse me, sir. Not necessary. So, and I don't want to do it in a mean, nasty way, but I have to admit, when I have a very big distaste for someone, it's probably going to come across. If I don't say it, you're going to see it on my face. I normally will just say it. I will. And I don't expect them to like me back. Absolutely not. Why would I? I don't care. But at a certain level, I do expect everyone to be an adult and to not create false narratives, propaganda, try to emotionally hijack people because of false narratives. You can hate somebody without creating backstory that's false about them as to why you hate them. You just say, I don't like them. Whoop, there it is. So It's easy as that. So, just be careful. Real life is not The Young and the Restless. It's not Guiding Light. It's pretty daggum easy. So beware of the people that really are pulling you into drama and big storylines and narratives. And well, I'm worried about educating you, but then I want you to think about someone's sexual practices. Huh? Okay. Not necessary. And I'm sure everybody there felt a very not necessary moment if they heard that too. Yeah, you should have those little ringlings in your, whoop, danger, not necessary. Pay attention to those. We all have them. Okay, I'm going to continue with my drunken granny stitch and get my eyes cross-eyed and let Luna out and then start some dinner. But I'm hobbling still. I broke my toe at the base of my toe where it hooks into your foot. And like I've got a bruise that's like that big on the inside of my toe and across the top of my foot. It's rather ugly. It's bluey gray. It's turning my green now. I have a doctor's appointment anyway tomorrow for my repeat EKG and blood work for my thyroid, which I believe I'm probably fixing to have to radiate and kill. It just doesn't function correctly. It makes me sick. And we've done another big hypo to hyper again. And it's just we ain't jiving. I think I'd do better without him right now. So I have to go in and have all that checked. So I'm going to let them look at it and be like, if they want to take an x-ray, well, I'm not this time. But it's broke. And they can't really do anything for a broken foot. I've broken my feet before. I've broken every toe I've got. Horses and cattle stepped on them. It'll heal. I just have to be still. I can hobble easier, but I'm not hobbling a lot right now. So, yeah, that's where I am. I need to heal it up for the next couple weeks though, because it's highly likely my mom's gonna be having a surgery. So I need to get fixed. Luna May. Okay, I gotta go take care of my toddler. She's being a little booger. Y'all have a wonderful day. I will read through this and respond to the live chat and stuff when it loads. Don't worry. And if you want to talk to me about something else, put it in the comment when this does upload in the regular comments. I'll be there. I'll talk to you. We can have an interesting and necessary dialogue without being hateful. And you can say snarky things without being a butthole. I do it all the time. So if we need to talk about something, let's talk about something. But at the end of the day, let's get back on the focus. And the focus is your battlefield, your energy, how it's being used against you, co-opted, manipulated, stolen, how you don't know your body is taking hits from the environment around you with the stuff that they instill in the environment around you and the stuff that they put in all these frequencies and sound waves and all this other crap, the chemicals that are going into your environment because they have to put them there because they found a dollar bill that they need to put in their pocket. Be aware. Start looking at federal funding, grant programs. Look at what's going on in Minnesota and then look at your state and see if you can find this crap too. I guarantee you'll find a whole lot of it. And just, start to become a little bit more leery. And maybe instead of jumping in, sit back and watch for a minute or two. It'll be a benefit to you, I promise. And you don't have to agree with everybody in every level to use their information. But if you use their information, be polite and tell people you're using it. Learning, at the end of the day, that's the best you can learn from what I've said here today. So I love y'all. I appreciate all your time. If you're wanting a possum, I still have a lot of possums that I made from those few rows of yarn that David got me, and he would love to get money back on that. So you can go to the Hillbilly Heart Etsy shop and ask David for a possum. I think he put 4 up for sale. I think he has probably 6 or 7. And as for other, he'll put other stuff up as he has time off from work. He doesn't have a lot of time. If there's something particularly you want, just message him on Etsy and he'll get back with you. Other than that, I'm sitting here crocheting, taking care of a dog and my foot. So I love yous. I'll talk to you in a day or two. Make sure that you keep up with the Boomer streams. And as always, go and watch Sabrina on Odyssey. That's where you're going to get all the best from her. So I will see y'all in a couple of days. Bye, guys.